We are the DuCross Brothers, the Sports Warriors, here with Bellator's announcer, Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith, lately, right now, Bellator's on a whole nother playing field. They have signed multiple lightweights, and one of the ones that are going on tonight is Melvin Guillard. Him coming to Bellator has been big news. What's your take on Bellator's signing of Melvin Guillard?
It's huge, but it's up to Melvin Guillard to make the most out of it. I mean, you sign anybody, but they have to get in there and perform. And he's one of those guys who, as an athlete, as a fighter, you want to be that talented. I mean, he's one of those guys where he has all the physical gifts, he has all the tools to succeed. Does he take the fight seriously? Did he prep properly? Does he respect his opponent enough to fight a smart fight? If he does that, it's his. But all of his problems in previous fights have been from the neck up. He knows that. I know that. Everybody in MMA knows that. If he puts his physical gifts all together with the proper training, he's going to make a big impact in Bellator.
Is it also safe to say that another weakness in his game plan has been the inability to stop the takedowns, and he's facing a guy who's big, stocky, and Brandon Gertz, who's a really successful guy at taking his opponents down to the mat? How can Melvin Guillard counter that when that's been one of his weaknesses in his entire MMA career?
Make a takedown a desperation takedown. When a guy's hurt and a guy's getting punched and he doesn't know what's coming, he kind of just dives for a takedown, anybody can stop that. And so I think what Melvin Guillard needs to do is not just focus on his takedown defense, but if he's explosive and he has Brandon Gertz stumbling, if he has Brandon Gertz on his heels, no one has an effective takedown when you're moving backward. And so if he can get Gertz moving backward, he doesn't have to worry about that takedown as much as he's had to in previous fights, because that has been a weakness of his.
The DuCross Brothers here with Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith, this card here at Pechanga Resort and Casino again, Friday the 28th. What is something that you're expecting out of this card? And we kind of want to talk about Lorenzo Hood and versus Rafael Butler. And apparently they have this little issue that they have going on, that Butler wants to silence Lorenzo Hood. Lorenzo Hood wants to take his soul. What do you expect out of this fight? You got a debut guy and a guy that's been around the block in Bellator.
Right. I think we're going to see a knockout at least in the first 2 rounds, if not in the first minute of the first round. This is one of those fights where they can come out and say, oh, there's personal animosity, I want to do this, I want to do that. They have their fighting style. Both guys like to throw big punches. Both guys are great finishers. Both guys are not known for their ability to go the distance. Both guys don't have any love for the ground game. So this is going to be one of those stand and bang fights. I don't care what they had said about the other guy. I don't think these guys need any personal animosity to knock one another out. That's their style anyway. So that's what we're going to see.
I think, too, what a lot of people are interested in know is that you don't want to always look past the fight, but Lorenzo Hood, that is, has been very outspoken, not only about taking the soul of his opponent, but outspoken about the fact that if he gets through Rafael Butler, that he's been calling out Kimbo Slice. Is that something he can go out calling out at this point in his career, or does he have to earn that stepping stone?
He has to earn it, but one of the ways to set it up is to talk about it, then earn it. You know, we see a lot of fighters talk about wanting this guy, wanting that guy, wanting a belt, and then you have to perform in the cage. So you can't do one without the other. Can he ask for it? Sure. But if he doesn't earn it with some knockouts, let's face it, the heavyweight division in Bellator is wide open. There's no sense of, oh, he's got to get past these really big names in order to get to that guy. He can get toward the elite level in Bellator in the heavyweight division with a couple of good performances. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that with a couple big knockouts, he can be there. So start your mouth, but the mouth doesn't keep you running. It'll start the car. You need to keep going with his performances in the cage. That's what he needs to do.
And being with the heavyweight division is so wide open right now, is Bellator looking at more heavyweights to bring in to solidify that, or the cream of the crop that they have right now, are they going to run with that?
That's an excellent question. It's a combination of both. The heavyweight in combat sports, be it boxing, kickboxing, MMA, has always been a premium. A good heavyweight gets snatched up really easily. You can find those lighter weight fighters, if you scan the globe, you look at other countries, you're looking at Russia, Japan, you can find those lightweights that are kind of diamonds in the rough. That's hard to do at heavyweight. They've always been at a premium. So it's always going to be tough to, convince talent to leave other organizations and to kind of find that up-and-coming talent. They're snatched up pretty quickly. So I think it's a combination of, developing the guys you have in Bellator, guys like Bobby Lashley, guys like Alexander Volkov, you know, it's you got to build the talent, also be ready to take talent from elsewhere. But there's not a lot out there. It's tough.
The Sports Warriors here, the DuCross Brothers Sports Warriors here with Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith, right now, you're talking about wide open in the heavyweight division. It's somewhat seamlessly to be kind of getting to that point also in the lightweight division. I'm going to go back to that because Saad Awad is fighting tonight against Pariki Pitbull on Friday night. And Saad has won 3 straight fights. Yeah. He's expected to make moves now in the lightweight division. And we've seen all the video all over. And last night they came in around 10 o'clock.
Yep.
Pitbull and his brother, Georgie Karkinian, being right there too, right next to Saad. And all of a sudden, here you go.
Hell breaks loose. Right? Exactly, yeah.
And
never have fighters from different camps at check-in at the same time. We try to avoid that whenever possible. That's not the way it worked out.
Is the animosity running truly that deep, as you heard the language in the video,
right.
You saw the heated exchange.
Right.
Is it really, truly that deep of a hatred between Georgie as well with Patricio Pitbull?
It's between Patricio Pitbull and Georgie, it's very real. It's very real. I don't know how much it spills over to Awad versus Patricky. I don't know how much that's going to affect their fight. It's this weird mix where Will Brooks can't stand Patricky and Patricio, and so when they were talking about said Awad, Will Brooks gets in and says, I wish Awad beats the crap out of Patricky, and it's this weird kind of triangle of animosity. But the two guys that I don't think have that much animosity for each other is Saad Awad and Patricky Pitbull. I think they're professionals. I think they'll be all right. But once again, they're guys who go for the knockout anyway. They're aggressive and trying to look for the finish if they love a guy. So I don't think it's going to change the overall structure of the fight very much, but Karahanian versus Pitbull, that's going to be a huge fight when it happens. Obviously, when Karahanian gets over his injuries and gets back in the mix at 145, the animosity there is very real. And like you said about calling out the guys above you, Patricky Pitbull and Will Brooks have been going at it for I don't know how many months on Twitter, going back and forth. So that's a fight where if he's impressive against Saad Awad, would be easy to set up.
This, I guess, goes into a two-part question. So we got a chance to speak to Saad Awad earlier today.
Yep.
During the interview, he had mentioned that he was notified that the security is going to be stacked a little bit more, and that the way that he approaches this now is that he looks at it that Georgie is classified as his own little brother, and that now his little brother has been picked on. So what his natural reaction, now he's going to stand up and defend his brother. So I think now we're going to see an interesting weigh-in come tomorrow with Patricky and Saad Awad. So you have the history of being in the middle of tussles.
Yes.
And not wanting to let go of the mic.
Yes, I cannot.
How are you getting ready now for knowing that there could be something that goes down tomorrow?
Well, you know, I'm there, but it's really not my problem. I'm not fighter ops. It's not my job. I'm not a commissioner. It's not my job to get in between these maniacs and keep them from fighting. What I don't want is Saad Awad has to fight Patricky Pitbull. I think those guys can hold it together pretty well and have a professional weigh-in stare-down. If their camps are doing this and going at it, that's the harder part. They don't have to fight. They don't have to worry about it. They're not adding pressure onto themselves. They're going to fight in maybe months, maybe a year from now. So if you're Georgie Karahanian and you're Patricio Pitbull who aren't fighting, you have to know, look, I don't like you, you don't like me. We can't get into it and affect our guys who are fighting. That's just one more thing they have to worry about. They got to make weight. They got to step on the scale, pass all the commission stuff, get through the photos. If they put hands on one another, you can get suspended right there. The commission can go, you guys can't fight, sorry. You don't want to put that on your guy. So could they get into it? Yeah, they certainly could. Will I step in and intervene? No. But it's also, do they want to put that on their guys? Because that isn't very fair. What you're saying about him wanting to stand up for his little brother, Georgie Karahanian, your big brother's got to fight. You don't want him worrying about you and this other guy and you guys going at it. You don't want to put that on a guy who's got to make weight and fight. So hopefully it doesn't get too far out of control. And that's a small stage. The last thing I want is anything going down there because it sucks. It sucks. Yeah.
With those two fighting, there's also been talks that this could be the potential for the number one contender spot for the lightweight title and an opportunity to take on a Will Brooks if he so happens to get past his next fight. Is that the right matchup to put, or should it have been, like I brought it up to Sayada Wad, would it have been a better matchup, Melvin Gillard versus Sayada Wad, instead of doing the matchups that they have right now?
I think any of them work. They're all good. They're all explosive. They're all fan-friendly fights. I think it's kind of a can't miss. And, Melvin Gillard, if he puts on a great performance against Brandon Gertz, could he be next in line? Sure. You can't point to any of those guys and go, I think that'd be a boring fight. I mean, all of them would be entertaining. The question is, that both guys brought up to me when we interviewed them is, if I am the next guy for Will Brooks, I don't want to wait. Because he has to fight Marcin Held, who knows how many months after that he'd be ready to fight again, blah, blah, blah. Both guys said, I don't care, I want to stay in the mix, I want to stay busy. Even if they said, you have Will Brooks next, both guys want another fight in between. So that Melvin Gillard in the mix, or Brandon Gertz, if he beats Melvin Gillard, I think that fight will end up happening simply because both guys said they want to stay busy. So I don't think it'll be an instant shot at Will Brooks.
And I think, too, is that...
And Josh Thompson, let's not forget about him.
That's where I was just going to go. You can't forget about the Punk now entering the mix into Bellator lightweight division. Yeah. We've done the breakdown of the roster before, and we compared to people want to talk about the other company. I'll just say it that way, the other company.
UFC, I can say that.
There you go.
All right. So people have this idea that somebody asked me one time, like, can you go to UFCs? And I go, yes. I'm an adult. I am 37. I can go anywhere I want to go. It's so stupid. Like, I can say whatever. I can say UFC. It's all right. It's okay. Nobody died. I can go to UFC. It's not a problem, okay?
So the UFC,
yes.
You've seen now that they're losing the lightweight division. Mm-hmm. Bellator is taking over the lightweight division. The Punk Thompson enters that mix into what is already a stacked house. He's going to be taking on an opponent at Bellator Dynamite in San Jose. Right. Where does he fall into all this? How do you jostle everything going on in the lightweight division and making sure that your own guys that you still had is not being overlooked?
Right. You hit it right on the head. Whenever you bring a guy in from UFC who has name value, who is popular, who is a consensus top fighter, the balancing act is, if he comes in, like, for example, Phil Davis in the Dynamite tournament, if he just wrecks house and goes right to a title shot, and just blasts everybody in that tournament, what's the popular perception? Wow, the UFC's up here, and Bellator's right here, in a sense. So it's a fine line where those guys are big investments for the company. They come in with a lot of fan recognition. They come in with a lot of name value, but you don't want to toss them softballs. You don't want to build them up in a sense. You also want to let them know when you come to Bellator, there are some tough dudes here at 155. Very tough. So that line of, do you throw Josh Thompson a couple softballs and have him fight for the title? Or do you throw him in with some tough guys, Sayada Wad, Patricky Pitbull, and maybe end up diminishing your investment if he loses one of those fights? Those are that's why I don't like being a matchmaker. That's why I wouldn't do it, because that's what Rich Chow has to think about, is how do we match this up to really build the right fight without just giving somebody the keys to a title fight instantly. It's tough.
So then that brings me to the other question you just touched on a minute ago, is Phil Davis in the Dynamite tournament. To me, is that it's a great idea in theory to have the tournament all in one night, but it raises a red flag to a lot of people in the sense that you also put in two wrestlers into a tournament that essentially is built for a wrestler and not a stand-up guy. How can that intrigue the outsiders that are wanting to tune into Bellator Dynamite and to know that, well, two wrestlers are in there and basically it's been fed to the Phil Davises and the King Mo's to be the last two standing? Right. How do you turn that around and justify that to the guys that are tuning in?
Right. Emmanuel Newton fought King Mo twice and beat him both times. And he beat the takedown extremely well. His takedown defense was great in that fight. His range was great. His timing was great. So Emmanuel Newton is Phil Davis's first fight. Emmanuel Newton has been around the block with great wrestlers and done extremely well. Linton Vassell, his whole bread and butter is on the ground. So King Mo might want to actually use his wrestling defensively, stay on the feet, and land some knockouts. So you're taking on two guys. The wrestlers who are on either end of the bracket are taking on two guys who have been proven commodities and have dealt very well with wrestlers in the past. So it's not a matter of we have Phil Davis, we have King Mo, let's throw him 2 softballs. Very tough fighters in the middle of the division with Linton Vassell and Emmanuel Newton. So I don't think anyone has a cakewalk. I don't think anyone can get through that tournament and say, I'm not the number 1 contender.
So we're going to have King Mo versus Linton Vassell.
Yes.
Phil Davis versus Emmanuel Newton. I don't think anybody knows that yet.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting tidbit, again, to see how well King Mo, and see how well his stand-up has grown against Linton Vassell, who's now training with one of the most world-renowned, I guess you could say, grapplers in Neil Melanson.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting, definitely.
Well, we are the DuCross Brothers Sports Warriors here with announcer Jimmy Smith. Be sure to check out Bellator 141, February? Really? Wow. August
I was
28th. Thinking my birthday.
You can edit that. You can edit that.
Right?
It's no big deal at all.
I was thinking February 15th. I don't know why my birthday popped into my head, but that's what I was going to say. August 28th at Pechanga Resort and Casino this Friday. Weigh-ins are tomorrow, so be sure to get here for the weigh-ins tomorrow and get your tickets for Bellator 141 August 28th. It's going down Friday night. Thank you for joining us, Jimmy.
Anytime, guys. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me, bro.